The tale of the mainframe computer horror game begins with an earlier, more recalled game, when a man by the name of William Crother found he had an excess of free time that he used to make a video game to play with his two daughters on his work computer, a PDP-10 mainframe. Inspired by Dungeons & Dragons, he wanted it to be simple enough for them, and so he set out to design an RPG straightforward enough for even the non-technical to enjoy. Coworkers would find it saved on the mainframe computer as Advent, play it, and share it online, causing it to be found on PDP-10s across the nation. Carnegie Mellon University's John Laird would be inspired to make a horror version of it, calling it Hunt, releasing in 1979 and receiving updates for years to come. Hunt tells the story of a picnicking family who were attacked by a moose, with the mother not making it, and the father growing obsessed with their fate to the point of acquiring the land where the incident took place, and vowing to find her soul to return to human flesh. He was dismissed as having gone mad from grief, not only from his wife's fate, but his child's kidnapping shortly after. Years of never being seen leaving his residence in the area, and suffering from a hereditary disease also led to people assuming he may have passed. But when coming to check on him, those people didn't emerge from his house either. You are his kidnapped son, now grown up and having never known your biological father, but find out you are his next of kin, and plan to just sell the property to the government. But before selling it, you want to check out this residence, perhaps out of curiosity or uncaring greed of seeing what you can take and what you will sell. This setup not only establishes the world, but the sanity mechanic, as throughout the game you may quickly suspect your character is afflicted with the same hereditary disease as your father. This kicks off with you waiting at a bus stop, and upon getting on the bus to go to the house, you realize there's no one else on the bus, including a driver. The doors slam close and the bus takes off, a quick tone setter for the game. As it gets you there, the doors open and you're sure you heard a voice from the speaker as if a driver were there announcing, "All out, end of the line." With the hereditary disease being established alongside your father going mad in the story, it creates an uncertainty of how reliable your protagonist's perception is. Are you seeing real danger? Only seeing a hallucination? Or will you be harmed by a hallucination? Seeing the mansion in the distance, you can approach the front buzzer on the gate, which if repeatedly buzzed, someone will eventually answer and will ask you questions that can range from asking what your sexual orientation is, prompting the person on the buzzer to ponder what your mother would have thought, to the fourth wall-breaking question of what was the first production system with more than 1,500 productions. The answer being the game that you're playing. They will let you in and you can begin exploring the mansion itself. You could hear noises that sound like distant screams, and one might lead you to a room with a closet where what lies within answers one question and raises another. You find your late father, whose last act was scrolling on the wall a letter to you, claiming that he saw you and your red-headed wife in the paper, and hopes your daughter won't inherit the disease which he has succumbed to after not being able to take care of a crop that can combat it, causing him to pass, failing to resurrect his wife, your mother. Now, earlier in the game, an urban legend is established that the reason people who did a wellness check on your father never returned from his house was because the legend states you have to be blood to survive. But I guess not. And furthermore, who answered the buzzer? Has someone moved into this house after your father? Or was the person on the buzzer an example of your inability to trust your own perception? Perhaps someone masqueraded as a hallucination of your father to expedite his downfall, and has that advantage over you now too. What can you trust then? Well, the game has no shortage of dangers, while contrasting surprisingly well with more light-hearted humor, like finding a monster rising from a sheet in the basement who greets you with trick or treat. Handing it a bowl of candy you can pick up elsewhere causes it to run out of the room through a wall with excitement. The tone is humorous while keeping you on edge, like seeing Dracula rise from a coffin in one room, which you might think is a humorous discovery. But also, that's Dracula, so you might want to run away out of fear hoping you lost it. It also had moments that truly impressed me. You could walk into a dungeon where someone is in prison. Setting this person free, you can talk, but are now cellmates. A recommendation online was to try to kiss them, which they accept, and prompts the game to tell you to try to take it further, which results in a relationship of this between talking and sleeping until after who knows how many days or weeks you spent together in this dungeon with them. They say goodbye, and turn to smoke in the air. Such a surprising detour that then just lets you escape, but now with matches that your partner found and gave to you during the days you were trapped together, if they ever existed at all. Did days actually pass? Or was this like one of those dreams where years of your life were lived and connections built with loved ones that never existed? The sanity mechanic is not just for narrative, it also needs to be maintained throughout the game. As it drains, you grow dizzy, your hands sweat, and if you let yourself go completely mad, you will end things yourself, giving in to a rumor that those who enter the house all meet this irresistible compulsion. Is that what happened to your father? No, because the rumor says this happens because you're not blood. Or was the urban legend itself only trying to piece together the truth, and not entirely on the money of what is true? Is it Dracula? Was the monster in the basement your father turning into Frankenstein, trying to resurrect your mother? Most importantly, what was the crop your dad mentioned in his message that combats this disease? Well, you could find a dried garden, and watering it will grow orchids that eating gains sanity back, but only if when asked who you are, you answer that your name is St. John. And this is some obtuse adventure game nonsense. But the clue to this answer is that in your father's message to you, he mentioned seeing your red-headed wife and your daughter in the paper. As in the funny papers, not the news. It's a Brenda Starr reference. That really raises the question of sanity. In terms of adventure game solutions, it's far from the upper tier of leaps and logics I hear them taking. But it did make me wonder if the player character actually has a family. Are you sharing in your father's delusion? Creating the mind over matter to believe this placebo crop can keep your mental destruction at bay? The humor of it aside, I do find this to impressively blend the gameplay mechanic with the narrative. When it comes to the scale of the game, I'm also taken aback by just how big this game is. You can really find your fear. I suffer from megalophobia, or the fear of large scale. Anything from being next to a docked ship to even a room with a high ceiling can set it off. So in comes an elevator in Hunt's residence that descends down and opens into the airlock of a bathysphere with a spear gun inside, and takes you down into a massive body of water with a sea monster. Now, I don't have thalassophobia, but an underground area large enough to house this body of water and massive creature didn't paint the most comforting imagery in my mind. At first I wondered how this would help Dad bring Mom back, but then I found there's a treasure chest at the bottom he must have been trying to research, or we're both going crazy from that disease and I'm just reaching into a fish tank with an eel. I would explain the ability to summon and befriend the sea serpent. Treasure you want to take can be brought to the front of the house, but finding a way to leave was not as straightforward as I anticipated. You can dig up a grave outside and keep digging past remains deeper and deeper in that spot until hitting a pipe, whose emergency release began filling the grave with oil, giving me a moment of panic that I just dug my own tomb, only to manage to scale the dirt wall out and see a maintenance truck came to fix the oil spill. Upon escaping, you meet with a James Watt from the government, and they're actually given the choice to preserve the land instead of going through with the sale. If you preserve it, you ride off into the sunset. But if you choose to sell it, you will be charged by a moose in front of Watts, mirroring the same fate as your mother. This game is a trip, and it literally has one. You can find more than one substance, one of which can give you a hallucination telling you to follow the wire, referring to music playing in a section of the house. And if you follow the music player's wire, it leads to a secret stash of another substance that if used, you will eat through food items in your inventory. The cops will even arrest you if you kept substances on your person by the end of the game. With all the content in this game, I can't help but wonder how different the 1.0 of this game was from itself after 4 years of updates. If James Watts is the United States Secretary of Interior only toward the end of this game's development, does that mean this character was nameless in the 1.0? A different character? Or the scene as a whole didn't exist? This game not only left me with an impressed satisfaction of the adventure games can take you on, but it also reminded me that different updates of games can be considered lost media, and that this game serves as a time capsule of its creator's sense of humor and interests of the time that will likely outlive him. I hadn't considered what of ourselves we leave behind in our creative works that will catalog who we were after we're gone. You might find it comforting or a true horror at the thought of what people might do with it. I'm Otaro.